Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Bar. I'm your host, as always, Temi Tayo, and thank you for joining us this week. Last week, we talked about the performance of Man United at Anfield and how that was going to be the stepping stone, the building block for the levels that we wanted to see from the team moving forward. And today, I think we got all of that and some at the Emirates in the third round of the FA Cup. Just looking at the game, I think the first half was pretty drab, to be fair. Not a lot of goal mouth action. Not a lot of chances created by either team. What stood out to me the most, I think, in that first half was how poor Altay Bayındır was, especially with his distribution. From what I can remember, I think I counted about 6 or 7 goal kicks that literally went out for a throw-in. Couple crosses in the box as well that just didn't seem that confident. And I'm thinking, we saw his performance in the Carabao Cup against Tottenham, where again he looked pretty shaky. And I'm thinking, this guy isn't it. This might be it for Alti. To be fair to him, I mean, boy, did he turn things around, right? Of course, the game kicked into life in that second half with the goal that Bruno scored. Wonderful assist by Garnacho. We'll get to him and Bruno in a second. But the penalty save by Bayındır, I think that was the sole moment that ultimately led us to win the game, right? Because if Arsenal score right there, down to 10 men against 10 men, I really don't think that we could get back in that game, if I'm being honest. But that save, I think, gave the team the belief that they needed because, to be fair, that was never a penalty. Never a penalty. Great acting by Kai Havertz, and he deceived the referee. Of course, there's no VAR in this game, and so Bayındır single-handedly kept us in that game and redeemed himself in the penalty shootout. And kudos to him, man of the match, and well deserved and well earned, with a great performance in the second half and in the extra time and ultimately in the penalty shootout. And so just want to tip my hat to him for turning things around and redeeming himself. But I really want to look at 5 things that we've learned from this game. 5 takeaways that I got having watched Man United knock Arsenal out of the FA Cup. The first is captain consistency, Bruno Fernandes. We talked about it last week with the improved performance. I believe I said that was his best performance of the season at Anfield, and he continued that form in this game. Bruno's always been known to take risks, which has yielded a lot of reward, but he tends to give the ball away a lot. He tends to give away silly fouls and put his team under a lot of pressure. But I think it's safe to say that the Bruno that we've seen of late has played with control, has eradicated those silly mistakes out of his game, and we're seeing Captain Bruno really own this team. Really put this team on his back with disciplined performances that we've cried out for. I think when you look on the opposite side there in Odegaard, he's a captain that I think any team would be proud of. Always makes the right decision, puts the team on his back, doesn't make mistakes, and delivers a consistent 8 out of 10 performance. And we're starting to see that from Bruno. And I think that if Bruno can keep this level, we can only go up from here. Because when Bruno's on song, the team plays well and the team performs. Everything starts with Bruno. And if he can keep this level of performance week in, week out, I think we'll have a strong second half of the season. Number 2, the redemption of Joshua Zirkzee. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, how he was booed, essentially, having been substituted in the first half against Newcastle. And since then, he's slowly but surely starting to find his feet. I see a lot of people wrote him off after that substitution, after the struggles that he's faced, but he's slowly coming into his own. When he came on for Hoyland, he was great just with the hold up play, relieving the pressure off the team, haven't been down to 10 men, and to step up and score the winning penalty at the Emirates, for me, I think was his redemption moment. And the hope is that this is the start of his career, that he's going to kick on from here and be the player that we saw at Bologna last season, with creating, scoring, and being a focal point for the team. Number 3, Maguire. Just an appreciation for Maguire. We talked about it again, I said last week, about the struggles that he went through, being booed at every ground that he went to 2 seasons ago. And I think suffice to say that he's probably our most important defender in this United team. And he's come a long way. He was almost sold last summer by Eric Ten Hag. Talked about how he was stripped of the captaincy. And to see the performance levels that he's put it in right now, I think we can only just tip our hat to him and show our appreciation for Harry Maguire. So hats off to you, Maguire. You're an example to everyone, right? Of going through bad moments, keeping your head up, believing in yourself, and ultimately proving all your doubters wrong. Number 4, the maturation of Alejandro Garnacho. Last season, and even this season, up until Ten Hag was sacked, Garnacho was a staple in this team. We relied on him, and I'm not sure that's ever the right move for a youngster. We all know he was disciplined by Amorim, and he's been resigned to the bench for the most part since Amorim has come in. But I just love the way that he's gone about his business. And in the last 2 games, he's had 2 assists. But more importantly, I think is the decision making that we've seen from Garnacho in these last few games. And that's always been my criticism of Garnacho, is just the immaturity in the final third. When he's meant to shoot, he'll pass. When he's meant to pass, he'll shoot. And today and last week, he's come off the bench. Well, he started the game today, but came off the bench, had an assist, started the game today, another assist for Bruno's goal. And I think we're seeing him starting to revel in this new role where we're not depending on him week in, week out, where he can come in, no pressure, play his game. And we're seeing him, like I said, mature right before our eyes with making the right decisions at the right time in the final third. So kudos to Garnacho for really sticking it out, especially when you see what's happened with Rashford. I think it's good to see Garnacho accepting his role on the bench and fighting for his position. And two assists in 2 games, I think he's given Amorim a selection headache, as he should, for the coming game. So again, hats off to Garnacho for the maturation that we've seen in his game over the last few weeks. And finally, Arsenal and Mikel Arteta are in trouble. I think Arteta, up until this point, has done a relatively good job getting Arsenal up the table, having them challenge Man City, coming second. Yes, he won the FA Cup, I think, in his first season. But to be fair, he won that cup with Unai Emery's team. And since then, he spent, I think, over £700 million, brought in 30 players, and really nothing to show for it. And I think questions are starting to get asked about whether he's the right guy to lead Arsenal back to the glory days that they experienced under Arsene Wenger. And I have my doubts. I seriously do about Mikel Arteta. We look at the signings that he's brought in, and I think it's criminal that they didn't bring in a striker. They spent 100 million on Declan Rice the season before. They went out and got a couple of defenders, midfielders, Marino, Calafiori. But where's the striker? Who's scoring the goals? I mean, we saw Kai Havertz today fluff his lines. We saw it again last week. And it's a shame that with all the money spent, with all the hype, he's getting to a point where I think he's in trouble. And, Patrice Evra has talked about how Arsenal is Netflix FC because they're always waiting for next season. But it's going to come a time where the fans are going to start to turn on him. And they're not going to want to wait for next season. They want to win now. And I'm not sure that he's the guy that's going to be able to do that. Very similar to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who guided United to, I think it was third, went to a couple finals, but just was never able to get the team over the finish line. And I think we're seeing the same thing with Mikel Arteta, where he's just not who we thought he was. But anyway, those are my takes from the game. Great performance once again, having gone down to 10 men and being able to knock out Arsenal out of the FA Cup and keep our dreams alive of being able to retain our cup in the FA Cup, and looking forward to the games ahead with this improved performances. We can only go up from here. We've been so poor the first half of the season, but a lot of optimism going into the second half of the season. That's it for me today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. It means a lot to this podcast as we try to grow. So thank you, and cheers. We'll catch you on the next one.